Okay, about 10 minutes from the last live. We are again here still at the construction site. We had a couple of workers come through, film, and ask if we were going to move to get their trucks go by. No one answered, so they're assuming we're not moving. We have Dean up here out front. Dean and Doris here. And our signs. And so we're here taking direct action again at Pee Hee Mu'huh or Thacker Pass Lithium Mine site. And they're also taking video of us. Okay, so I finally had a little bit of a confrontation, and we have Dean, Doris, and some of the protesters standing strong back here, blocking the trucks from passing through, and we're gonna go get some food for them actually right now. But, you know, everyone, we're here at Thacker Pass where a massacre site happened, where BLM only decided to consult with 3 nearby tribes, with the government knowing we're moving into a green energy transition and making Nevada basically the sacrifice zone for lithium. And we're saying there should have been better consultation. More tribes should have known about what was happening here, and the U.S. government should have met with the Nevada tribes or tribes in general about their plans for the green energy transition and the actual truth about how it's mined, what they're planning, how the landscape's going to change. And what that really means for the world. Again, we're just changing one problem or exchanging one problem for another. Gas-powered vehicles put emissions into the air. Electric cars, they stay inbound or within the battery, so there's no emissions that come out. However, you need 4 or 5 different mines to be able to get the minerals needed for those batteries, which mining is not green. This is also, and first and foremost, a massacre site that BLM failed to put in their reports at the initial proposed permits that were coming through. And this place has our ancestors here, and we're here to protect it, protect the water, protect our future, protect our non-human relatives. And Michon's over here talking, so I'm going to go ahead and capture her as well.
People across Indian country and across the world, all the indigenous people. I'm Paiute and Shoshone. My mother's people are from Timbisha, Death Valley, and my Paiute people are from Kuiu, Itakara, Pyramid Lake Paiute tribes. And it's been a long battle. Our Indian people, I always remember all my life. I always say all my life. That's all we've been doing is campaigning or talking out against what is wrong, and this is wrong. Destroying sacred places, and when we say sacred places, that's really important because I know there's a lot of people out there say, oh, Indians say everything is sacred, but everything is sacred. But, however, places like this, Pee Hee Mu'huh, Thacker Pass, our ancestors lived and loved and died here. And during that time, and a lot of you know this, our people prayed all day long. So when they woke up, they greeted the sun like we did this morning, and they prayed. And then when they went to the water, they prayed. When they washed up, or to get a drink of water, or to get the water for that morning, they prayed. When they went to eat, they prayed. When they went to pick the berries and the grass seeds and the wild onions, they prayed. When they were making baskets, they prayed. When our folks were making their tools, they prayed. And they prayed when they hunted. They prayed when they killed any animal for food. And then they prayed. That was prayer all day long until the nighttime. And so that's sacred. That's true spirituality. And today, archaeologists can't measure that. They can't measure our language, and they can't measure our spirituality. And archaeology has become a business, and that's what this is. So last June, an archaeological firm came out here and excavated thousands and thousands of our ancestors' cultural items. And now all those thousands of cultural items are probably at their lab, and they're going through them, and they're studying them, and they're measuring them, and they're writing opinions about who we are as Indian people. And they don't understand that they can't, maybe they can measure those cultural items, and maybe they can write a book or write an essay about them, or go on speaking engagements and write about that, but they're forgetting the main part. They're forgetting the spirituality and the prayers and the language that was put in those items. But they are disconnected from that because they're disconnected because of their science. So they can't, all those archaeologists that were out here excavating, they don't speak the language, so they can't say whose items they are. That's part of colonization. I bring that up is because you heard earlier Will talk about the traditional cultural place, traditional cultural property, a traditional cultural district. That's what this place is. I want to go back a little bit from 1864 into 1868. There was a war on Paiute and Shoshone Great Basin people. Hundreds of massacres took place right after the Civil War. So people were coming out of gun-toting, and Nevada and California were asking volunteers to come here to fight Indians. And of course, you have a bunch of racist Civil War after the, they're already bloodthirsty, have guns, and they want to continue on and fight, and so they come here to volunteer. So the cavalry was attacking, and as you've been aware, there was a September 12th, 1865 massacre. I'm not going to go into that because I did hear the gentleman before me talk about that. I do want to talk about all the massacres that occurred to get rid of our people. After those massacres occurred, while those massacres were occurring, you think about it, 1868, 1869, 1869, 1870, that's when they're starting to Congress is starting to look at the 1872 General Mining Law, which is in still effect today, an outdated 1872 mining law. Our ancestors didn't have input to that mining law. Our ancestors were fighting, were trying to protect themselves. And when the miners were coming over this way and immigrants were passing through Nevada, they didn't want to stay in Nevada. They look, and people probably look at this and say, oh, that's nothing. It's okay if they mine there. This is something. There's food and water and all kinds of things here. But that's what was happening in Nevada during this time of all the massacres between 1864 and 1868. You think about 1869 and 1870 to 1872 is when Congress is creating that 1872 General Mining Law, which is a fiasco. And every time somebody tries to change that law or even have hearings about it today in 2023, those hearings get stopped. So I'm going to go back again. So after those massacres in 1864 to 1868 and 1865, when the massacre happened here, as Indian people, if you're seeing this, you know how important and how sad death is. But we also know that we have ceremonies for our dead that go on. We do proper burials and the way we've been taught. And our people, when they were massacred here, I know that the cavalry, after the massacres, the cavalry posted their men here. And when our people tried to come back to reclaim their dead, to rebury them and maybe sing those songs for them and put them away traditionally, they were shot on sight too, because the cavalry and the government knew that how important death was to our people, and that the living would come back and try to retrieve the dead. That didn't happen here. That didn't happen in a lot of places. And all we were asking was acknowledge that massacre, and that massacre in 1865 is part of the National Historic Preservation Act. So why is it that the government doesn't get to follow the National Historic Preservation Act? The National Historic Preservation Act is to assess historic properties. They did not assess the historic properties at this place. They went against their own law, the NHPA, and that's wrong. And so through all the environmental impact statement regarding the National Environmental Policy Act, that was one of the guiding laws that permitted this project, the National Historic Preservation Act, the Record of Decision, the Cultural Resource Inventory, the Historic Properties Treatment Plan, none of those mention that massacre. That is absolutely inappropriate, and it's wrong. So are you trying to hide and sweep that massacre under the rug? That's absolutely inappropriate. So going back again, between 1864 and 1868, when all the massacres were taking place and our ancestors fighting back, after the people that survived those massacres, a lot of them hid in these hills and these mountains all over the Great Basin, not just here. And when they were hiding, the cavalry started to round them up, and they would march them, with bayonets and guns to their heads. They marched our people to Fort Bidwell, California, over here to Fort McDermott, Nevada, and also to Fort Churchill over there between Yerington, Nevada, and Fernley. In that area is Fort Churchill. And our people were getting marched around. Then they marched our people up to Oregon, to the Malheur Refuge area. And after the big other wars started to take place, then they marched our people January 1875 up to Fort Simcoe by Yakima. That's why we have our Paiute relatives up there too. And terrible things happened along that way. People dying, old people dying. They had to march. And can you imagine in 1872, 1875, in January, from Oregon to Washington, going through passes and hills? There was knee-deep, if not waist-deep, snow. And so that's the suffering of our people. And other people, maybe non-natives go, oh, you Indians have to get over it. No, we carry that trauma with us. That wasn't long ago. And so our people, we've suffered a lot, and that's not taught. How many of you heard about this 1865 massacre, or that there was a war to annihilate and massacre Paiute and Shoshone people and people in the Great Basin between 1864 and 1868? And how many people know that we had a trail of tears from Oregon to Fort Simcoe, and we still have Paiute our relatives up there? And people will say, why are you guys over there? Maybe you live in Reno, and why are you over there in Thacker Pass? Well, you know what? In traditional society, we had bands and people all over the area, and we had our Paiute bands named after foods, eating. And so we had the Toi Takata, which is now the Fallon Paiute Shoshone tribe. We have the Kuiui Takata, which is now currently the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe. We have the Agai Takata. So we have all these eating food of who our bands were. And our bands, they were family related, but they interacted all over the state of Nevada. We also had our Western Shoshone bands. And right over here is the Dosowihi the white knife, and then we also had our southern Paiute, and then we had our Washoe in Lake Tahoe, and then we had you can't just forget about our relatives, because we didn't have boundaries, fences, and lines like maps do today. I just recognize the people in the Nevada state, but we can't forget our Burns Paiute tribe people, our people that are over in Klamath Falls area, and Fort Bidwell and Cedarville, and our Benton Paiute people, and our Bishop Paiute Shoshone people, and our Lone Pine people, and our people down in Death Valley. We're all related, all the way that goes up into Utah, the Ute people. You know, we're having the Shoshone and Numic language reunion in Fort Duchesne this year. We're all Uto-Aztecan speaking people. We're all related. And after these massacres, they decided, oh, let's let's make the governments legitimate. And they started to individualize us and said, okay, now you're this tribe and you're this tribe, and separated us out, and now you're sovereign nations. And now we do that to ourselves. What are you doing over there? How come you guys? Oh, well, leave it up to that tribe to fight that. No, we're relatives. That is what the government's done to us, is separated us and individualized us. And we do that to each other. Oh, that's their problem over there. We need to come back together like we were, like we always have been traditionally. There's 40 other lithium mines coming.
The police, I just got word police are on their way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that we need to start to come back together. There's 40 lithium mines planned for the state of Nevada, 18,000 lithium claims right now. And all for electric vehicles. You hear our people saying here, you can't mine your way out of a climate justice. Electric vehicles aren't going to save us. So why do we destroy sacred, beautiful places for electric vehicles? You know, not too long ago, maybe about a year ago, I can't recall, Governor Newsom out of California said, hey, by 2030, we need to be going electric vehicles all the way. Everybody in California. And then a month later, he's like, don't plug in your electric vehicles. You can't hook up to the grid. The grid, you're not really saving the earth by driving an electric vehicle. The grid, you still have to plug in. Part of that plugging in to the grid is electricity. Where does that electricity come from? And so you have to understand that this is not the way. And why should I have the solution? President Biden just passed in August the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, and that was giving grants and loans and funding to corporations and organizations that's going to go to solar or green, the so-called green energy. So billions of dollars are being sent to billionaires. Why send billions of dollars to mining companies? Why send billions of dollars to billionaires? How fair is that? I don't have the solution, but maybe one of them was that you can send billions of dollars to our local regional transportation commission, so that you could teach our people how to ride the buses and slow down on the vehicles. It's been a problem. We have a problem here in America, and Nevada is now the new sacrifice zone. So I'm just saying, Paiute and Shoshone people, we're all related. We're all related, and it's time to stand together and understand that the 1872 mining law needs to be changed, and also these laws, these national laws that have been set up, National Environmental Policy Act, National Historic Preservation Act, they can just work them or bypass them and not even pay attention to what's really happening. We've been calling out and asking Biden. President Biden's been asking his agencies, revamp your consultation policies, talk with the tribes. Well, Biden, you're at the level of as these 28 chairmen and bands in the state of Nevada. Why don't you come over here and do some true consultation? And Deb Holland, why don't you come walk this Thacker Pass? And everybody else, there's the Lithium Nevada Corporation calls this massacre the alleged sacred areas in all their legal documents. This happened here. Nobody's lying. It took place. We have the documents and the oral histories, and it's time to stop sweeping the the massacres under the carpet and start to understand that this is destruction. This is not green energy annihilating a whole mountainside, and annihilating sacred burial sites. And, you know, for non-natives out there, when you think of burials, it doesn't say cemetery and that there's a grave right here and we put a cross on it. It means they're scattered all over here, our relatives. And what that means is now if their bones are disintegrated, like the gentleman before was saying, in 3 years after the massacre, a surveyor wrote down, hey, this is where that Captain Payne whipped a bunch of whipped Indians. And I see there's skulls and bones still laying around here. That's in the surveyor's surveyor's notes. And so if those bones aren't laying here anymore, then they're a part of the earth. The animals, maybe they're a part of the sagebrush. They're a part of all this land that we're standing on. And you have to recognize that. I don't know if we talked about a little bit of the former National Park Service superintendent wrote a letter to BLM Winnemucca and said, hey, the Thacker Pass has a lot of similarities to the Sand Creek massacre. The soldiers camped over that way for here before they attacked here at Pee Hee Mu'huh. And the same thing happened at Sand Creek. The cavalry camped the night before and attacked on both sides of the villages, burned the cache foods, all the foods that were in, and burned the food, destroyed the food, and then attacked. And the battle went on for miles and for a long time. Now we know that the Sand Creek massacre, there was a lot of more people, and you know, we feel for our people, our relatives that sacrificed, and the relatives that live today, their descendants. You know, we've all carried this. We all carry these terrible massacres that happen, and it's time to show the public and to show America that, you know, America, you were built on murder, rape, and theft, and lies and deceit and slavery, and that seems to not change. So what's happening here? Come on, everybody, wake up. And so, you know, I talked a lot because it's all in my head and it's just circling around, but it felt really good this morning. It's really calm here. It sounds like the sheriffs have been called, and you know, we're here in prayer. We're here as Paiute and Shoshone people and our assistants and our allies, Protect Thacker Pass, to be here in solidarity, to feel good and to pray, and that's what we're doing. That's what's been happening. The sun opened up, and you know, I want to talk about 2 days ago we came up here, it was raining and hailing. Yesterday it was really windy, and it just cleaned it all up for us, and here we are to start afresh. We just want to show you that, you know what, if you are going to put in 40 mines, lithium mines, or you think you're going to plan lithium mines over here in the state of Nevada, in our sacred homelands, it's not just Native people's homelands. You non-Natives that live in Nevada, these are your homelands too. These are your traditional cultural properties as well. And so just don't say it's just not for Indians, because what do you think in 50 years? Where's that water going to come from? What's that lithium mine going to look like in 50 years, 60 years? That's important to note. It's just not Native people's traditional cultural properties. It's non-Natives' traditional cultural properties. If you're going to put in 40 mines, lithium mines in the state of Nevada, and you're going to put this one in, and this Thacker Pass mine is supposed to be the biggest mine in the country, possibly the world, then do it right. Don't do it in lies. Don't do it with your fake government to government consultation. Don't send one letter to just a few tribes when there's 28 tribes. You know, these mining companies, they are taking advantage of our poverty over here. There's 28 tribes, and you know, I want to quote a great chairman, and he has said that since 1872, since the 1872 Mining Act, All the mining companies and their shareholders, they've taken out trillions of dollars since that time. And all the 28 tribes are destitute and poor in the state of Nevada. Nobody gets per capita. No, we're not rich tribes. We don't have casinos. We don't have big economic development. We're just living our life, and this is our land. It may look like a dry desert to you, and it may look like a dry sagebrush to you, but these are homelands. We just ate some wild onions and some bitter root last night in these areas, so we're just asking you guys just to be supportive and to recognize electric vehicles aren't going to save the earth. There's other things to be done, and we need to take a look at that. Take a look at the South. When you go to your water, any one of you guys, you go to your water this morning or this evening, or take a drink, talk to that water. Our bodies are made of water. That water's important. It's sacred and it's important to us, and that's our livelihood. Oh.
Thank you, Michon. Michon always has wonderful words. Yes, moving words. Because I think reality is we're trying to decolonize our minds so we can remember what our people have been through, what our teachings are, and how we're going to help the world, or our future world. And we keep saying it, we're all related, and we have to remember that because the government is trying to conquer and divide and keep tribes separated, so we can't we don't have a bigger voice. So we have to continue being supportive of one another and protecting our sacred areas. And gosh, it's just a lot to think about in our future. And you know, should we really be driving our cars, or maybe we should go back to riding horses, or like we said, public transportation, more community food programs, or food or gardens, I guess. And there's just so many other ways that we could be a little more green, what is truly green, and living more of a simplistic lifestyle. But we know that's all hard for all of us. We all love our conveniences, but it is something that we should really rethink about in how we live our everyday life, and how beautiful, or how much we're taking for granted in living our everyday life. So anyway, we're here. We have our protesters, Dean and Doris, are still down there in prayer, blocking the work vehicles and the heavy equipment. You could see them just about in there somewhere. Sorry. And we've got notice that the police have been called, so we'll see if, when they arrive. And when they do, I'll get back on the live feed. So again, just stay tuned, and we'll keep you updated. But it is a lot of information. It is a beautiful area. Imagining the massacre happening right here and being here early this morning, it's a lot to take in. And sorry. We just have to create the better future for all of us. So I will talk to you guys in a little bit. Bonitwa.